genetics was used for the first time by W. Bateson in 1905. Genetics is often described as a science which deals with the mechanism of heredity and variations. Gregor John Mendel, 1822 to 1884. He is very appropriately known as the father of genetics. Heredity. Eggs laid by a sparrow hatch into sparrows, but never into any other bird. Seeds of wheat always produce wheat plants, but never any other plant. Heredity is a phenomenon of like begets like in successive acts of reproduction. Heredity as a process by which characters are transmitted from parents to offspring or generation to generation. Variations. Like begets like, yet the young ones of same parents are never exactly similar, except identical twins, to each other and to the parents. These differences found between the young ones of same parents or various individuals belonging to one species are called variations. These variations are very small between the various members of one family, more between various families of one population, and are very pronounced between different races or tribes of one species inhabit distant areas. Of heredity. The only bridge between the parents and offspring are the gametes. Whatever traits of characters are transmitted from the parents to the progeny are physically carried by way of gametes. Mendelism. This is one of the most acceptable theories which explains the mechanism of heredity. This theory was postulated by Gregor John Mendel, 1822 to 1884. Mendel took different varieties of garden sweet pea, that is Pisum sativum, a plant showing 7 pairs of contrasting characters. The characters selected by Mendel for his experiment are shown. Character: dominant versus recessive. Plant height: tall, dwarf. Flower color: purple, white. Pod color: green, yellow. Seed color: yellow, green. Seed shape: round, wrinkled. Pod shape: inflated, constricted. Flower position: axial, terminal. 7 pairs of contrasting characters of garden pea used by Mendel in his work. And laws postulated by Mendel. Mendel, after a tireless and ceaseless experimentation on sweet pea, that is Pisum sativum, plant, made certain observations and postulated the following laws. Law of unit character. Every individual possesses hundreds and thousands of characters. Each character in an individual is controlled by a pair of factors or genes shared by the female parent and the other by the male parent. The 2 factors controlling one character in an individual may be similar, that is homozygous, or dissimilar, that is heterozygous. It is also called principle of paired factors. Law of dominance. It states that in heterogeneous, that is hybrid condition, out of the 2 contrasting alleles, one expresses itself morphologically and the other remains unexpressed. The factor or allele which expresses itself phenotypically in the presence of its contrasting allele is called dominant, and the other which remains unexpressed is called recessive. For example, when a pure tall plant is crossed with a dwarf plant, whole of the progeny produced is tall. It means gene for tallness, T, is dominant over gene for dwarfness, T. Law of segregation. It states that the 2 factors or genes controlling one character separate or segregate without blending or influencing each other during the formation of gametes, so that each gamete receives one factor or gene for each character. It means gametes are always pure. Hence, it is also known as law of purity of gametes. Mendel postulated this law based upon his monohybrid crosses. He crossed a pure breeding tall plant with a dwarf plant. The F1 generation produced was all tall. On selfing the F1 plants, he raised F2 generation. He found that the F2 generation produced consisted of 75% tall and 25% dwarf plants. That is, in the ratio of 3:1. Phenotypic ratio. Tall or dwarf. That is 3:1. Genotypic ratio. Pure. Ratio hybrid tall. Ratio dwarf. The ratio is 1:2:1. From the above cross, it can be concluded that F2 generation, which is produced on selfing of F1 generation, it is clear that 25% progeny is dwarf. These dwarf plants are possible from the F1 tall plants only. If the gene for dwarfness segregates or separates from the gene for tallness, or gene for tallness does not blend or influence the gene for dwarfness when present simultaneously. Phenotypically dominant individual may be homozygous, that is TT, or heterozygous, TT. But recessive plants are always homozygous, that is small t and small t, for that character. Law of independent assortment. Factors or genes controlling different characters assort independently without influencing each other during the formation of gametes. Mendel explained this law on the basis of his dihybrid crosses. Mendel considered the inheritance of two different characters simultaneously. He took two pure breeding plants, one having round and yellow, that is RRYY seeds, and the other wrinkled and green, represented by small RRYY seeds. On cross-pollination, F1 generation was raised in which all the plants produced had round and yellow seeds. By selfing the F1 plants with F2 generation was raised, he found 4 combinations in the following ratios. Round and yellow, 9. Round and green, 3. Wrinkled and yellow, 3. Wrinkled green, 1. F2 phenotypic ratio. Round yellow, round green, wrinkled yellow, wrinkled green.